Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Super Dandori Bros Podcast, episode 7. And we have a great show for you today. We are your hosts. I'm Leighton. He's Ryan. And today we have another fun topic. We want to discuss remakes we'd like to see from Nintendo, but kind of and explore different things, whether it be graphical style or just some gameplay changes or things like that. Mostly graphics for me, but yeah, I think it'd just be a fun idea to explore. There's so many. Nintendo's been kind of cooking up some interesting remakes lately, and it'd be fun to kind of explore what other things we'd love to see them do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of really awesome opportunities. And I think one of the rules that I took when coming up with my list, but I think we'll be improvising a few of them just as we talk, um, is that the remakes don't have to be, remakes don't have to be, um, they should be warranted for the sake of the game itself, right? It shouldn't be, does it fit into the current market? Does it make sense with Nintendo's plans or lack thereof for the franchise? It's more about how do we make this game, which has an amazing story or maybe certain elements of it that we'd like to keep, a little bit more palatable for modern audiences, or to unlock a newer level of potential that hadn't really been reached yet due to maybe hardware limitations at the time, for example. Those are some of the things that I was considering as I came up with my list.
Yeah, I mean this. Yeah, I agree, and there's just a lot to. I don't know. This is so many games. I don't know. I'm just looking at my list and I was like, trying to figure out where to start. Um, do we just jump right in?
Yeah.
Since I have no idea where to start, I'll let you start.
Okay, sounds good. So I came up with a few of them, and there's one in particular that I feel makes sense to start with. And it's one that's come up quite a few times on the podcast, as usual. There seem to be like a handful of ones that we gravitate towards. But for me, it's going to be what I listed as my favorite SNES game, and that would be Earthbound.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously does not fit into whatever Nintendo's lack of plans there are for the Mother franchise. But I think that a remake would hypothetically be plausible. But what would I want to see from it? So there's some quality of life improvements I'd like to see. Let's say that you play the game. Let's say you get halfway through and you have to put it down. Life comes up, whatever, and you come back to it. It's really hard to figure out where you left off and where to go next. And it's sort of the same for Mother 1, but I think that Earthbound is the more famous of the two, so I'd like to see them start with this. So I think that having like a lot of modern RPGs do, have some sort of like a journal system where it sort of like lists all the things that you've done or sort of where you are in the story, or an ability to talk with your party members and get advice on where to go next. I think that that's a little bit more palatable for modern audiences. Other than that, I don't think you really need to change that much. You could maybe change some of the like the gameplay, like the combat design, such that you see the characters. Mother Encore, which is a fan remake of Mother 1, which looks beautiful, by the way, does some of this, which is actually like really cool. And I'd recommend anybody listening who's sort of interested in the Mother franchise, like go check out that demo. It's not too long, but it's a pretty like meaty demo, and there's a lot of really cool stuff in it. But putting that aside, let's talk about our hypothetical remake for a second. Seeing the characters more, I think, would make a lot of sense. And then I was thinking, like, you'd probably want to keep the game still set in the 80s in America. I don't think you'd want to modernize it. I think part of the charm is the 80s style. Maybe you'd change some of the words here or there to of like the descriptions of enemies or something like that. Maybe you change. I don't know. I could see it going either way. But I think in terms of what you could do graphically for it, I think that's even more interesting. And you and I talked about this privately. But one thing that I would love to see is I'd love to see Grezzo's art style for Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening, that sort of like toy-ish, almost claymation-esque style, be applied to Earthbound. Because if you look at a lot of the like art for Earthbound, it is in that claymation style, and I feel like that would be a really cool thing to realize, almost like a way to go back with modern technology and sort of realize the original artistic vision, or at least an interpretation of it that we've seen before but never like realized in game. So those are some of my thoughts about it as an Earthbound fan, and I think that you have at least a passing familiarity with it. I don't know how much of it you've played, but what
Not
are your
enough.
thoughts?
I'm totally on. It's literally on my list. I was saying it needs it similar style, but I definitely think they need to lean heavier into the claymation style, less of the Echoes of Wisdom style. Like use that as a base, but definitely
Yeah.
style it more with more like make it really feel like you're in like I don't know a wall. Not, I don't want to say a Wallace and Gromit movie kind of thing, but kind of give it just that little bit of texture, a little bit of maybe the way they move, just a little bit of that. I
Hmm.
think it just give it so much character, and then definitely like more like make it pop more. Like if you look at Echoes
Hmm.
of Wisdom and A Link's Awakening, they're very cutesy, but like I feel like they definitely still fit that Legend of Zelda theme. Whereas I'd love to see with Earthbound just make it feel more childlike wonder, more very
Hmm.
like ethereal kind of. I don't know how to put it, but because that's what I see in the stuff I've seen, as far as clips and everything. It's very just crazy, like almost like a acid trip. And
Hmm.
so I
Yes,
think
yes,
I
very
think lean
much.
heavily into that, really like update like the animations, the
Hmm.
transitions, like all the things that make the game flow. Like give it this, obviously stick to that root theme and feel, but
Hmm.
just definitely like just amp everything up to 11. It just would be huge, and it just yeah, like I like those quality of life improvements you mentioned too. I'm like not 100% sure on the whole seeing the characters in combat, not because I disagree with you, but because I think
Hmm.
that's such an iconic part of Earthbound that some people would find that. And maybe it's just a toggle. Like if you want the new version, you can. But if you're like old school, you just want it to look the same. You can just toggle it back.
Hmm.
Because I would just see like I think that's such a unique thing when you play that game is the fact that you don't see your characters when you fight. It's almost like you're in first person, and your character and the people that you're fighting with are next to you, and yet
Hmm.
you just never
That
look left or right.
Yeah, that's actually a really great interpretation of it. I had never like thought of it being like a first person sort of thing. I mean, that does make sense. Um, I don't know, like I guess like looking at Mother 3 where you do sort of see the character's face pop up, whenever you're selecting an action for that character. And then in Mother Encore when you see the character actually like pop up behind their like name card and then like take a swing with their bat or whatever, so you get a little bit of animation. Like I think you can still have at least sort of that Mother style, but no, you would lose the first person aspect. But I'm inclined to agree with you that I think with a lot of like pretty much any new like artistic like choices, if it can be toggled, it should be an option. And
Hmm.
granted, that sounds like way easier said than done. As someone who's done a fair amount of programming, that is like it is much easier said than done. At the same time, I think that especially if you're going to remake such a cult classic, like I feel like there are going to be people, in some ways myself included, who would want to be able to toggle that from time to time.
Yeah, and more options is always better, especially because you want to appeal to new people. Especially if they go through the trouble of a remake, I would think that they are also trying to revitalize the brand, which then
Hmm.
you want to get new people in, right?
Yeah.
So, but I love the idea too because honestly, I mean, I probably can just go back and play the old game and still just have a great of a time. Like it's not like
Hmm.
the Super Nintendo games hold up super well, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is definitely like some quality of life stuff that'd be nice to see that just makes it more playable for a modern audience. And I know I've seen that with some of the older games, like Link's Awakening was definitely a big example. Now that's a Game Boy game, which definitely needed a little bit more help, but it's
Hmm.
amazing. And then same with Samus Returns.
Yeah.
Those were two games that were kind of locked on Game Boy and kind of a little bit of you unless you grew up with them, they're kind of hard for new people to get into. So having
Hmm.
those remakes really just fixes a lot of stuff and makes it more playable, more enjoyable, and kind of almost like you were saying, it's like stuck to almost the original vision. Kind of gave
Hmm.
people like because of the graphical limitations at the time, it got to live as it was meant to be lived. So,
Yeah.
but I like it. I would love it because it would give me even less excuses to not play Earthbound.
Absolutely. One thing I've gone back and forth on about this, and I kind of like your opinion on it, and actually it could be the subject of an entire episode, but something to think about is if you were going to remaster remake a game like that, how, like, in the same way that sprite artwork still sort of has its charm, would you want, and I mean, granted, you haven't played much of the game, but I guess imagine a similar principle being applied to something that you do know a lot better. Would you, like, how would you feel about a game that's sticking to, say, like the 1980s as a setting, keeping that tinny, like 16-bit soundtrack or whatever, bit they were using for the sound, or like an actual, like recorded, essentially remade score, like it's the same songs, but like it's made like orchestrally or something like that. Like in some ways, I almost feel like there's a charm to the older style, especially when it is more or less a period piece. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think it comes down to a toggle, and Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, the new one, did this flawlessly, where there's an item you can get that lets you change all the soundtrack back to the original GameCube soundtrack. So wherever you go, it's literally, and I know it's not the same as like the old SNES music, but the idea that both soundtracks exist on that cart, so that you can, like, I think that's the same thing you do. It's like it would cost them nothing to have, in storage wise, to have the original soundtrack on there, and just have it where it's like, I want to play with these new graphics, but I still want the original 16-bit soundtrack. Make that an option. Why not? That'd be so easy to do. I say easy, but obviously it's a little extra coding, but compared to the other things Nintendo has done, like Tears of the Kingdom, I think they can pull it off. So
probably
just
absolutely.
music switching. I think that's the way to go. I think they should have a updated soundtrack. I think it would be cool to remaster them with all the instruments, especially if they went full orchestral. I mean, that'd be insane.
They never would.
They never would. But
but as long as we're imagining our
Yeah.
ideal remake.
Yeah, we're just in theoretical land here. I would say go all out, and then, but also, like, if you want to, like, it could be either something you get when you beat the game and unlocks it, or it could just be something that's just there from the beginning. But I think, and so Nintendo has, in at least one game I've played, I don't know, I haven't played all, if there's other games, please let us know in the comments. They've done this from Nintendo. But I love the idea of just being able to toggle between the different soundtracks. But because I don't remember if Prime Remastered had that option. I know on the music app, it's all the original Metroid Prime music. They actually don't have the remastered. And I don't remember if the remaster, I'm pretty sure the remaster had remastered music too, but I don't remember for sure.
I honestly don't know that.
I'd have to check. I was just so engrossed in the game, I don't remember. It could have literally just been the original soundtrack, and I wouldn't have noticed because it's so good.
And it sounds better because it looks better. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
it's all in your head.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. So I think that covers my first one. So let's move on to one that you feel would benefit.
All right. Well, I'm moving on, and I haven't put a lot of notes in this. Like, I think you give yours a lot more thought, but a franchise that you and I both have very near and dear to our hearts, that really, really needs to come back to the limelight, is Golden Sun 1 and 2.
Yep, this is one of mine too.
Yeah. And the style I picked was an HD 2D style.
Okay.
And the reason being is that I think there is a certain charm that, like, because I go back to the old games, I still love the art, the style of that game, even though it's, made for a Game Boy, so the resolution's lower, and it's aged a little bit, but I think just the battles and the whole thing, I think you'd lose some of the energy and the excitement of the fights and everything if you just went full 3D. Like, because I saw that with Fire Emblem, where the original 2D Fire Emblems were just, there was something magical about just these epic fights. Like, I wanted to watch all the animations, whereas when the new ones came in, they weren't as thrilling to me. Now, granted, I haven't played some of the more recent ones, like it's on the Switch, so I don't know if they've made it better or not. But I definitely would love to see just an HD 2D kind of what Square Enix is doing with like Octopath and whatever the other one is that they did.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be really exciting, just because it would kind of, and I also feel like in a way you could kind of still marry the original style, so you're not taking it too far away, but you can still give it that new updated look that looks good on a big 65-inch HD TV. So yeah, I don't know, that was just my pitch. I really would love to see those games brought back to life.
Absolutely. I think that those are amazing games. I'm so sad that they haven't been as commercially successful as honestly they deserve to be, because they're just so good. And I don't know. We may have talked about this on the podcast, and I still haven't looked it up, but I don't know who exactly owns Golden Sun, whether or not it's co-owned by Camelot and Nintendo only, or Camelot only, or who knows, maybe someone else.
I did look it up.
Okay.
So it is sort of co-owned. So I think Nintendo owns the rights to the music and the characters, and then Camelot owns the rights to everything else.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of this weird like co-ownership thing, which is why I think it's tricky to make new games. But it's also why Nintendo was able to easily throw the music and the characters into games like Smash Brothers for like assist trophies and stuff, because they own the music and the characters. But they, as far as making a new game, they'd have to work with Camelot exclusively by the sounds of it. So,
Gotcha.
So we'll see. Because the last game was just unfortunately a big flop. So that's why I think a remake of the first two would be great, because those are beloved. And then not tweaking the style too much so that it's still kind of like you get the original feel. And then if they make a new game, so they do remake the first one, don't need to worry about the third one. And
no, who cares?
And then, it's a way to get people interested in the franchise and the world again. And then you get the new one. And maybe that one can go all fancy 3D and stuff. But I think just for the originals, I can't see how, unless they went all overboard, like they'd have to go, because I just feel like once you go 3D, you have to have the right style. You kind of lose some of the charm of the characters and the world. And I don't know. I could be wrong. That's just my opinion, because I love the original style. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they could do with it. But I would hate to see that franchise just go by the wayside. But I mean, we've seen that with F-Zero. We thought F-Zero was, golden child of Nintendo, and yet they've barely done anything other than F-Zero 99, which is a good game, but not really a new F-Zero, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that nobody would complain if they went ahead and remastered F-Zero GX for like the Switch or Switch 2. Like no one's going to complain about that, right? Because it's been forever since we got a non-99 F-Zero game. You know what I mean? Like a single-player F-Zero game, which... Like, I don't know. I played the demo for F-Zero GX over and over and over again. I had it on like a demo disc for the GameCube. And I had a blast with it. And it'd be nice to be able to, play the full game for once, because I never played the full game. My wife's actually a huge fan of, I think it's F-Zero X for N64.
It's good.
And yeah, which like really surprised me, because it's not really up her alley. But going back to Golden Sun, I guess like one question I would have for you, because I think you and I have different visions for this, and I think it's great. I actually think this is really cool for us to be able to discuss like our contrasting visions for it. And yours is obviously more plausible because Camelot would be involved. Well, I should rephrase that. Mine would require Camelot not be involved. Let's say that.
A lot more hypothetical, which I like that. I like the idea of taking it beyond what's probably going to happen.
Absolutely. But I guess like my question for you is, how would you feel about modifying Golden Sun? Because one of the criticisms, especially with Dark Dawn that I saw, is that the choices mean nothing. The yes, no, your reactions mean nothing. It changes one line of dialogue, with the exception of one, infamous decision at the beginning of Golden Sun where you can end the game early. Apart from that, your choices really mostly do nothing. Would you want to see maybe like a little bit of a change to the story, where maybe you could take, slightly different paths, fight slightly different bosses or enemies, and maybe some different outcomes based on, your decisions? Or would you want to see maybe an expanded prologue for like Golden Sun: The Lost Stage, where like you play a little bit of the journey from Vale as the enemy party, spoiler alert for everyone else, but Golden Sun 1, Golden Sun 2, you play as two different groups of people for most of it, and you play as the villains of the first game when you play the second game. Would you want to see like a little bit of that story, like because you can go all kinds of places with it? For me, I'd kind of like to see two parallel stories, one where you play as Isaac, Garrett, Ivan, and Mia after the events of the Venus Lighthouse, but before you meet up with the rest of the party in Golden Sun 2. And in for Felix's party, I'd sort of like to be able to play everything leading up to Venus Lighthouse. Like if you were to totally like blow open this remake and do whatever you want with it, like what do you think about that, or would you keep it to exactly what we got?
I think that's a really cool idea. The idea of kind of expanding the game and like beyond what it was originally, and allowing like more story to be told. But I also kind of like the idea of like, so you have the core game, right? If you make certain decisions, it ends exactly like it always does, right, in the original game. So you keep that storyline. That's like the I'm trying to think, the sacred timeline. And then you have these branching timelines that you can, so you can have alternate endings to the game based on those decisions. Those are like added content, right? So now we have, it could end a completely different way because you made these decisions. That would be kind of cool, because now it's more than it's just the same game with better graphics. It's actually like, wait, there's actually like a whole new endings. What if you don't light all the lighthouses, or what if, or I don't know, what if someone dies, or I don't know, you could come up with all kinds of alternate scenarios. That'd be kind of cool, because then it would give you even more reason to go back and experience all that. So I kind of like that idea. I like that you pushed it a little bit beyond what I was doing, which was more just a style change. I think that's cool. Now, you mentioned someone else developing it other than Camelot. I wanted to throw a guess there, and I'm probably wrong, but is it BioWare?
No, it's not BioWare.
Okay.
I would never put BioWare in charge.
Okay,
No, absolutely not. No, but I see where you were going, because it, like, the way that I sort of pitched it was like, could it be Nintendo's Mass Effect? And my vision for the game is different from what I just like pitched to you. So my vision for this remake is, and this could age horribly in a couple months. This could age like terribly, but my most anticipated game right now is Expedition 33 by Sandfall Interactive, and I love what they're doing with the turn-based RPG genre that is like barely ever touched in modern gaming. And just imagining, like, if you were to say, okay, Expedition 33, ended up being great. Let's assume it ends up being great. We don't know, but let's assume it does. Then allowing them to essentially reimagine Golden Sun, not necessarily doing it in a realistic style. Maybe you stick to the sort of cartoony style, but really lean into the story-rich elements of Golden Sun, which are some of the parts that I love the most. Giving it voice acting, giving it, better animations, giving it, the drama that it deserves, while also like really leaning into the beauty of the world, sort of like what Expedition 33 is doing, though obviously they, very different artistic styles, but give it to a developer who clearly has a lot of talent and vision. I could see it being really cool. Now, there's no way they'd ever do this, but again, we're envisioning like what we would want for the game, and like everything that I've seen from Expedition 33 really impresses me. And I guess like where I'm going with this is I want to see more from that studio. I think they're a very talented studio, and I also want the best for Golden Sun, and I could totally see a world in which those two converge and like give us something that's like truly awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think they would definitely be able to do something really fun and unique. And I agree. I also think it looks really impressive, especially the combat. Yeah, that could be pretty wild. It would be so strange though to go back to Golden Sun and have full voice acting when I'm just so used to the little like
the Animal Crossing sound.
Yeah, it's got its very unique sound, which I mean they wouldn't do that again for a remake, but maybe they could. It would be kind of funny, but
make it toggleable.
But yeah, it's just full like realistic graphics, but it has the chirpy Game Boy voice.
And like it has like realistic facial animations, but you have one set of facial animations where they're actually speaking the words, and another set where they're just going.
Yeah, their mouth's just going up and down rapidly, yeah, exactly. But they're like emoting and their eyes are moving, and they're like doing the whole like their bodies moving, and it's like, yeah, like that'd be hilarious.
That'd be great.
Yeah, but yeah, voice acting would be crazy for that because it would just change the whole game. Like you'd be like, wait, I didn't think that character would sound like that. It's kind of like when a book gets made into a movie and you're like, wait, that's how they're supposed to sound? That's what they decided? It's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it was cooler in my head.
Exactly. So, but I mean, obviously everything changes. I mean, Zelda got voice acting. Ganondorf has voice acting now. So I mean, all the
Fire Emblem
characters.
got it.
What was that?
Fire Emblem got it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that kind of felt like it was inevitable because it's basically just a turn-based anime.
It
But
is. And now dating sim.
yeah, it's just a date. It's Nintendo's dating sim now. We don't. Advance Wars
We're
is the
gonna
combat simulator if you want that.
we're gonna get roasted in the comments by our one viewer.
Yeah. Well, get some engagement going.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I think that covers Golden Sun. So I'm curious now, like, what's your next big game pitch?
Okay. Here's one that no one's gonna agree with but me.
Okay, I
So
like it.
here's what I want. I never played through the entire game, so this probably is going to age very poorly once I finally get around to playing it. But I want to see a remake of Star Fox Adventures. I played just enough of that I'm kind of interested in like actually playing through the game. I own it now. I tried playing through it. I ended up falling asleep playing through it. But if I were to reimagine that game, because obviously like Star Fox is gonna come up in literally any conversation that we have.
100%.
But if I were to reimagine that game, I could, because it is melee combat. Even if it obviously doesn't fit with what Star Fox is. But if you were to remake that game, I would do it in a Souls style, which sounds so stupid, and it would be great. I would love it, and keep the voice acting that is total gibberish until a proper noun, where it's just people saying blah 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 general scales blah 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 dinosaur planet. Please keep that.
It's so funny that you said that because I was literally thinking like you mentioned that game and I was like, oh, that'd be funny in a Soul style, and then you say it, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, just Fox,
You
just
know me too well.
just rolling over, and just all you do is rolling. I just want to see the boss fights in that though, if they're Soul style. Like, do we go full bore, like just atrocities?
Oh, I hope so. That'd be amazing. I mean, you could keep, more or less the same artistic style. Obviously, update it.
I mean,
And stuff.
Andross is kind of an atrocity when you beat it when you go to a second phase in Star Fox 64.
Yeah, that's true. He is pretty horrifying.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know. To be honest, like I'd kind of like to see that game get some love. I played it a little bit as a kid. It technically was, I think, my second Star Fox game. One of my friends from elementary school like rented it from Blockbuster, and we played through quite a bit of it in one night. I never finished it though, and so now I own a copy of it all these years later that I picked up on eBay for like $10 or whatever it was. But I would like to actually see that get some love, and if you were to remake the combat in a way that feels more modern, that is challenging and interesting. You don't have to do it with Souls level difficulty, but there is an aspect of the risk reward to Souls combat that you don't get in a lot of other franchises.
Yeah.
And I think that fits well with sort of the vision of what I remember from Star Fox 64, but this is like 20 years ago. So I could be totally misremembering this, but that's what I thought of. It was like, okay, if I were to, come up with a remake, that's one that I'd like. Anyway, what are your thoughts? And anything that you want to shoot down?
No, I mean, I think it'd be fun. I mean, I guess it depends on like what parts of the Souls games we're taking, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be fun to have the grittier graphics and the controls and like you said, the risk reward. But I just think it'd be fun because I think that game got a lot of unnecessary hate. Yes, it's not a traditional Star Fox game, and for that makes it very hard to. I think that really burned a lot of people after Star Fox 64 was like this incredible, arcade shooter type game to go to that. But it was kind of like the game was never meant to be Star Fox originally, and they just kind of slapped him on there. But it's apparently, from what I've heard, it's still a good game. It's just not a Star Fox game. So, but I think it would be fun to kind of retread that and see if maybe it does well in a modern audience, especially if it's got some Souls-like elements, because that's very popular right now. But when you think of remaster 2, are you thinking like it's the same game, or would you like make it larger, or make it like change the mission style, or would it just kind of still the same progression? You feel like?
I think you could probably have some larger environments. I played it briefly like a few weeks ago or so, maybe a month. Doesn't matter. And the environments felt kind of small. difficult to tell if that was an intentional design, just because they wanted to sort of funnel the player around, or if it was required by the GameCube's hardware. I feel like you could probably do some pretty cool stuff with it nowadays, like have some pretty awesome cinematic moments. Another direction you could go with it that is sort of like the Souls style, but maybe would be in some ways a better fit, would be to go with something like a Jedi Fallen Order style, where
Yeah.
it's more cinematic than Souls. You still have that challenging gameplay, but more focus on parries. Like, in Souls you parry, but, if you are terrible at parrying, you can sort of get away with it. And so maybe a Fallen Order style would be a little bit better.
I think I like that a lot more. Just because I think it just fits. I mean, obviously they're both sci-fi games, so that kind of is why it might feel like it fits too. But it definitely has the combat and the progression of the world. Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense if it was a little more like that. But I think they have similarities though, which is, it's like Fallen Order is kind of like it's weird to call it like a Star Wars Souls-like game because it's not really the same, but it does have similar elements in it. So.
Yeah, I've likened it closer to Sekiro than Souls, just simply because of the focus on pairing. I don't think you've ever played, or maybe you don't even know. I may never talk to you about Sekiro, but it's also another From Software game, and it's excellent. But anyway, so yeah, let's settle on a Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order-esque game.
I think that'd be fun. Be interesting to see how they do that.
Absolutely. And because that's the extent of what I know about the game, that's the extent of my pitch.
It's on my list of games I need to play. I remember playing the demo back when they had the demo stations in stores, and it had that first level where you're on the back of that flying creature and you're playing as Crystal, and it was just like, I didn't know what it was, but I was just like, this is crazy, and it looked cool at the time because that was what, cutting edge graphics looked like. So, but yeah, I'd love to beat it just because I think as long as I approach it, and I don't, now that we've had years to look back on, I approach it as what it is, not like trying to be like, this isn't Star Fox. I just go into it and just have a good time.
Yeah.
So and Star Fox Assault I still need to play too. So
Star Fox Assault is pretty good. I have it on GameCube. Too bad your Wii doesn't work, or I let you borrow it.
Yeah, well, I've got one I might be able to get, but that's a whole other story. Well, I mean, I'm glad we brought Star Fox up though, because that was important.
It needed to happen. It happens every time. I honestly don't. We should just rename it the Barrel Roll Podcast, since we've got L and R.
Right?
Like
oh my
the
gosh!
shoulder buttons. And...
I know we kind of rushed the naming, but that's okay. We're still Super Dandori Bros. Not changing now.
No, absolutely not. We're too deep into it.
Speaking of franchises that we always talk about in Dandori, and speaking of Souls.
Oh no. Okay.
So I don't know why this was just something that concocted in my brain. I didn't take it too far, so I kind of want to just brainstorm it with you, but I just love the idea of pitching Pikmin 1 with Dark Souls style graphics. So like just super dark, gritty, like just and keep in mind I've not played too many of the Souls games. I've only seen stuff online. So but it's just that really like just instant death and just like super hard difficulty, but like also just the actual dark, moody atmosphere and just brutal, like just getting all the Pikmin getting murdered and just, but you're still playing like Pikmin in the sense that you have Olimar and you still have the Pikmin, but you're just, the world is just completely like bleak and you're going through castles and you're going through like just really just, and then the things you fight are like things you've seen, but just way more grotesque and way more
just dark fantasy is essentially.
Yeah, but Pikmin.
Yeah, I love it. I think that would be a great idea. I in the past I was like, how would you make Pikmin into a Souls game? And I was thinking it would have to be similar to like in Smash Brothers, how Olimar will just like actually just hit other players with like Pikmin or whatever, but it would be different elements or something like that. That's about as far as I got, but I never thought of like keeping the same control style and just changing the art, like essentially the art style to dark fantasy. But I love it. I think that sounds like a great idea.
I just think it'd be funny, just you're traversing like just these old abandoned like dungeons and castles and just like I don't know, just off, I don't know, it'd just be hilarious. And then just traps come out of nowhere and just knock you straight into the abyss.
But the one thing that you would definitely need to have is every time Olimar gets hit, or maybe even just one of the Pikmin dies, it plays the exact same Dark Souls male damage sound, like when males get hit. Have I ever sent that to you?
No.
Okay, I'll send it to you later. It's not something that's appropriate to play on the podcast. Anybody who's played Dark Souls 1, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's I think, you would need to have that if you were to go, full Dark Souls 1, but Pikmin.
Yeah. Now, would you go like another level? Because in my head, I was thinking, wouldn't it be hilarious if like the Pikmin were all holding weapons of different kinds and like they went in?
So honestly, I've thought about this in the past, and I think we've like sort of briefly texted about this. If you were to make like a dungeon crawler with Pikmin, like sort of like in the style of Mystery Dungeon, and equip each of like the Pikmin with different like weapons to make them like different like classes, like fantasy classes, I think that would be really cool. I've never thought about it from the standpoint of almost like a Total War Pikmin, where each of the Pikmin has like a sword or something, and they go to war with other like essentially Pikmin or small creatures or something like that. That would actually be kind of funny.
That'd be super funny. I'm just, I don't know. There's so many things I'm imagining. I'm also thinking like, the game, what was it? It came out on Wii U, didn't do super well, but it was
The
like
Wonderful 101.
Wonderful 101. I'm glad you knew exactly what I was talking about.
Yep.
Almost like similar to that.
That would be kind of cool. That would actually be really cool.
Yeah.
I played the demo for it. I don't think I still have the demo installed, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it had a similar thing. We had a bunch of characters following you, and they kind of mirror your actions, but like they'd all act as one, and you can do different things with them, and like that. Just that, but with Pikmin, I think that's how it went. Anyway.
Yeah, did that ever get ported to Switch?
That's a good question. I don't know. I was just thinking, like,
I feel like it did, but I'd have to check.
I know it got ported to other consoles because it didn't do well on the Wii U. So whether or not it got ported to Switch. Did. Yeah, nothing did. Well, Mario Kart somehow did still, and Smash Brothers.
Okay, yeah, there's one. Okay, two examples. But they're like literally like the best-selling Nintendo.
Oh, yeah. IPs. Everything else tanked, so.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so anyway, I just thought I just love the idea of this cutesy, colorful world, and then you just suddenly just crank the contrast up. You just suck the saturation out, and you don't even know what color your Pikmin are. You just have to look at their shape.
I love it. This would I now I need to have this. We should get our mutual friend who's a game designer on it. I'm sure he would love to, take a huge side project to do something for us.
Yeah, for a franchise he's never played or cares about.
Exactly. Just tell him it's Age of Empires and it should work.
Oh yeah.
But no, it would be really fun, but gosh, that'd be a lot of work, and mostly for a joke. It probably wouldn't play well.
No, I mean it's kind of you actually look at Pikmin, it's still kind of an incredible feat of engineering and programming that it ran on the original GameCube, and even how it runs on Switch. It's just like the things that are going on and the effects and the AI. I mean, obviously the AI kind of sucked in the first game, but it still worked on a GameCube. So it's an incredible franchise. So
absolutely.
Well, all right. So we got Star Fox and Pikmin out of the way. So and Golden Sun. We got a lot of our favorites are all been thrown out there. So time to see what you've got cooking up next.
Absolutely. So my next pitch, and I have less of a vision for it, and more, it just comes from love of the game. And I think I brought it up on the podcast before, but it would be Chibi-Robo, and specifically the original for GameCube. I love the original Chibi-Robo. It's like there's nothing that's quite like it on the GameCube, and I don't know why. I guess there's just like this thing that I have for playing as like a small character navigating a like what would essentially be like a normal like sized like room or landscape or whatever, because like that's essentially what Pikmin is, right? And I think there's one example. I was talking with my wife about this, and there's another example of it besides Chibi-Robo. But anyway, you actually kind of got some of this in Pikmin 4, which was kind of cool, just navigating the hero's hideaway. But there was something that was just so awesome in the GameCube era about just navigating this house and like cleaning up random stuff. Like, it sounds boring, but it was so delightful, and I feel like you could really make a great sequel. I know there's that Kickstarter Ko-Robo That's essentially just trying to bring like chibi-robo back, but obviously not chibi-robo. And it looks pretty good. I hope that it succeeds. But I don't know. I'm very partial to that original game. I don't know how much of it that you've seen, but I don't know. I'm tempted to go and get it from my dad's house and play through it again at some point.
Yeah, it's another one of those games I've seen, never had a chance to play because I didn't have a GameCube growing up, so I missed a lot of those games. But yeah, I mean, it's a cult classic, and it's definitely a game that would be fun to see it get remade, so that again, more people like myself could go back and play it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think that like Nintendo either needs to just get really good at remaking and remastering their GameCube lineup, or they just need to stinking release the GameCube games for us to play. So
Absolutely
there's
on Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass plus plus.
yeah, expansion, Red Sun expansion.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. I was trying to make a space joke. Um, so yeah, I mean that'd be that. So wait, did you? I'm sorry if I missed it. Did you say what style you wanted in, or just kind of just a remake?
I don't really have a vision. I just sort of want a remake for that one. I kind of like it the way it is. If you were to change anything, you could hypothetically like add a bit more action to it because it was sort of clunky in the way it controlled, but it's unclear to me whether that was a limitation of the hardware at the time or if something that they really wanted for the character because the character is obviously a robot. And so, you would pull out drawers and climb on top of the first drawer, pull out the second one and do that. And later Chibi Robos tried to be a little bit more actiony, specifically Ziplash, which was like a total failure. But at the same time, like I could see like if you were to reimagine this in so I guess what you could do, and it would be kind of goofy but kind of interesting at the same time. I don't know. I heard good things about the latest Indiana Jones games, but I didn't see any like gameplay of it. But if you were to go for more of like an action adventure style of being able to like use tools and like swing from stuff and make it more actiony, I could see that being kind of an appealing way to take the franchise. You'd lose some of the robotic charm of it, but I don't know that that was the core of the game anyway. You know what I mean? Like I don't know that if you were to lose that or switch it out, that it would necessarily be that big of a net loss. Like in some ways the increased mobility might make it more fun. I don't know. Like it's hard, I guess it's hard for us to, really talk in depth about it, since I'm really the only one who like has had that I know of that's had like any experience with this game. Like I've literally never met anyone else who's played much chibi-robo.
Yeah, it was
But
definitely like a very well. I mean, keep in mind the GameCube was almost like it was the Wii U of its time. As much as
mhm,
people don't think about that because they think, oh, there's so many great games. It was such a great system. But I'm like, it was a huge flop for Nintendo. It didn't sell. I mean, the Wii U sold 13 million. The GameCube only sold like 21. So
yeah.
it's like not like that many more than the Wii U. So
Mhm,
yeah, I think there were certain games where like Chibi Robo that just didn't really connect. It was too like again the GameCube was being seen as like this very childish system, and so everyone was moving on to PS2 and Xbox. So there was just certain games that nowadays is an audience for. I mean, half these games are just ahead of their time. I think if they had released today, you'd see a huge number of people following. Millions of people would play those games, but yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. It was a great game. I mean, everyone who's played it says it's great, just like Pikmin. It's one of those franchises
mhm.
that once you play it, you understand it, but you have to actually, break through that barrier.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the cool things about Nintendo Switch Online. Like, I've gone back and forth in my head over like, did I prefer Virtual Console or Switch Online? I think I prefer Switch Online. Yeah, you don't own the games, but you do get to try a lot of them. And I think that one provides a lot of really valuable data of just pure interest in the IP, not necessarily like are people willing to pay money for this IP? It's like, well, maybe they would if they actually had experience with the IP, but is the IP itself interesting? Is what they've heard about it enough for them to even just like play it when it's freely available to them? I think is actually like a pretty good way for farming a lot of data on that.
Hmm.
And then on top of it, like you can make it more accessible to people so that when they watch a video and someone's like, if you've never played XYZ, like go check it out. It's on Switch Online. And people would be like, oh, next time I'm looking for a game, like, yeah, I'll check it out, And so I kind of like that aspect of it. So I think if they were to bring it to like Switch Online, GameCube, like if we actually do eventually get that, that's probably its best shot, to be
Yeah,
honest.
100%. It'd be really cool to see and see like a resurgence of that. I
Hmm.
think a lot of these franchises could get a second shot, and that's kind of the whole idea behind this too with these remakes. Is I think Nintendo has such an incredible library of intellectual property that is kind of gone untapped. And granted, they have tried with some of these games and they experiment. Nintendo's one of those companies that doesn't, other than remakes when they need to. Like I think they'll do remakes when they're just like, look, we need to fill the calendar with games. But
Hmm.
most of the time, they don't like creating new games that aren't original and different. They don't want just more of the same. So a
Yeah.
lot of the experiments they did with Chibi-Robo, unfortunately, people just wanted more of the same, just a better version of the same, and Nintendo wasn't delivering. So it was a shame. And the timing, I think Chibi-Robo kind of came out later in the GameCube's life when it was already on the way out. So, but
Towards the end.
so it'd be great. I think it'd be fun to see that maybe like just go full Unreal 5 on that, like literally like shiny, like go show off some crazy like reflections and blue and ray trace lighting and just like running around this realistic looking room, but with this
Hmm.
kind of like almost like a Pixar movie where like yes, you have these realistic environments, but you still have these kind of cartoony characters in them.
Hmm.
So you just have these hyper real like carpet and like the carpet moves and you see the footprints of him still running through and like you can see the reflections off of him like of what you're walking around and like when you go under things the lighting feels real. Like that would be kind of insane. And then you still
That
have
would
like
be.
these kind of cartoony characters that you interact with, but it's all just hyped up like realism. So
Well, and that actually fits like ridiculously well with like some of the premise of it. Like it, let's say that you pull out your toothbrush to scrub some gunk off of a counter and then making it shine. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
like that adds like an almost an extra like visual reward to it, apart from just like cleaning up the mess and getting the happy points or whatever. It's like it actually like makes it look. That actually would be. That's a really great idea. Actually,
I
there we
think
go.
it
That's the pitch.
There you go. And I think like you look at there is a market for it. You look at like Power Wash Simulator. Like that blew
That's a
up.
good point.
That
Yeah.
was a game that literally you're just cleaning stuff, but people are just like this just is so soothing. And I think Chippy Robo is kind of like almost a blend between that and Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have
Absolutely.
that kind of like it's a little bit more cartoony and there's a little more to do. Like there's missions
Mm-hmm.
and objectives kind of thing, but it's still at the end of the day you're just cleaning and doing household chores, but as a robot. I think someone if it could be marketed correctly, released at the right time, so it's not coming out like when a system's doing bad or like when some like don't release it the same day as GTA 6,
Oh
um, you know,
gosh, yeah, pretty much,
or
pretty
anything,
much.
yeah, anything like that. That's why Metro Prime 2 did so badly, actually, is because it came out basically the same time as Halo 2. So Nintendo's
Hmm.
unfortunately had some absolutely phenomenal games tanked just purely by just they released it the wrong time.
Yeah,
And
I guess that's the disadvantage of just sort of doing your own thing in the industry and paying less attention to the competition.
I think Nintendo pays a little more attention now, but not in the sense
Hmm.
of like they're trying to copy it, just trying to not like they are a lot more focused on making sure that they are the center of attention when they release stuff, which is why the Switch 2
Hmm.
announcement happened when it did, and why I think the Direct is happening when it's happening. They're definitely looking at the calendar of what's coming up and be like, we want to make sure no one else has got anything going on because we want to make
Hmm.
sure that the media is only talking about us. So, anywho, I think we got a little off topic, but um,
Just a bit.
but I love that idea. I think it'd be great. So I have another idea, and it's kind of a weird pitch, and I want you to see what you think of this because I was thinking about a game. I haven't played too much of it, but I have played some of it. It's the game Ice Climbers, and it's essentially just a game where you just keep jumping up as best you can. You
Yeah.
can win, but what if it was instead like you change the perspective, but you're still climbing up, but it's like a temple run style game where you're going up the mountain.
Hmm.
So you change the perspective. It's a little more 3D. So you're still climbing, but it's just nonstop going. So you're just basically choosing which area to be in, but like they just auto jump.
Okay.
And then you're just trying to so it's still again just changing the style, but it's still based on the original game. But because it's kind of when
Hmm.
you're jumping, you're trying to avoid enemies and you're just hopping as fast as you can till you get up. It's like just turn that into an auto jump, kind of like how they did Mario for the mobile, where he's an auto runner, but like side
Hmm.
scrolling. But instead, like
Yeah.
you change it where I don't want to auto jump with the same perspective though. I kind of want it to almost be looking up the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're kind of behind, and you kind of see them from the back, and it's like they're climbing up the mountain as they go, and you actually kind of feel like you're climbing a mountain.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I would 100. You know, it's funny you mention Ice Climbers because my last pitch is actually an Ice
Oh
Climbers
my
game.
gosh, man, we are on the same wavelength. I love that too
Apparently.
because that means that we can kind of we just yeah, I love that. Anyway, sorry, I just hijacked that, but yeah, that was my thought, was just like a really like taking a completely different direction of
Mm-hmm.
like still similar in the sense that it's platform, but it's just now not a platform in a traditional sense. And I mean, it could either
Yeah.
just be a mobile game, or it could be a full fledged release. Maybe there's more to it than that. Like, what ways do you think we that could be fleshed out more?
I don't know because I've actually never played Temple Run, full confession, but um, I like it sounds like it's very arcadey, which
Mm-hmm.
I like. I like, you know, actually, I think that there's a lot of value to arcade like games. One that in some ways is very arcadey that blew up recently was Vampire Survivors. So there's does seem to actually be a market for more, I wouldn't say simplistic, but less cinematic, more gameplay focused, more like it doesn't even have to be plausible. It just has to be fun. You know what I mean? And so I think in that way, like that fits really well, and it would sort of be its own experience. My pitch is a little bit less like that, but
I do want to hear your
I
pitch.
definitely, yeah. Oh, you'll hear it. And who knows? As with most of my takes, it's probably bad, but who knows? Maybe it's fun. But running with your idea for a second, I definitely could see it being sort of like, arcadey. Again, I don't know what Temple Run is, but I could imagine that is it like an experience that sort of gets more difficult the further you go in. You
Yes.
have to react faster. Okay, yeah. So it's like sort of a negative feedback loop in that way. Yeah, I could totally see Ice Climbers being that. You just get as far as you possibly can, and like then that's your score, and you just start over, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, you could do it that way. I was still thinking that there is an end to the levels. Like you could still have
Okay.
defined levels, and each one like different stages of the mountain. You know, you start out and it's not as
Mm-hmm.
snowy. You're like scaling the peak, right? So you're starting and it's kind of ground level, like you're going up Everest, and then as you get further, like now it's snow, now there's ice, there's things that can slip. So if you
Mm-hmm.
hit these certain spots, it will like change the way you react, and your controls change. Maybe if you hit ice, or if you hit a certain thing, or if a snowstorm's coming in, it keeps making your character want to move left when you need to be right, and so you're constantly having
Mm-hmm.
to do double taps to get to one side because the wind blows one way and then it blows the other way. Now it's blowing down where like. Well, I don't know. It would change your speed, or it's blowing behind you and it's pushing you up faster, so you have to react faster. And so it just
Mm-hmm.
keeps changing, and like so some levels get harder, and now you obviously have different enemies, you have different items that might power you up to make it a little easier for you. You could even go crazier and be like there's actually like equipment that you can use
Mm-hmm.
to make the game easier for you. So yeah, whether it gives you more health, maybe a certain amount of stamina that can be temporarily used for like jumping past certain things. So like if there's a obstacle, you can just jump past it, and then maybe it's a set stamina, or it's a stamina bar that can recover over time. But like if you have certain items, it recovers faster, and
Mm-hmm.
like so you can, or you can have like a pickaxe that where like if you hit a certain enemy and you fall down, give saves you so you don't fall. It's almost like a second try. Like
Mm-hmm.
so you can have all this fun type of thing you can unlock. I definitely don't want it to turn into like a microtransaction game. I want it to stay like just a
No,
full
no,
game,
yeah.
and but I just love the idea of it just now fleshing out into this more advanced game, but taking the same premise and
Mm-hmm.
just changing the perspective and changing the way it progresses in the style, and it kind of forces you to think differently. So like, because I mean, with Ice Climbers, the world keeps moving up, so in a way it is forcing you up, but you do have a little bit more time to react because
Mm-hmm.
you are, you can move your character left and right, up and down, and I think if man, I feel bad because I should have played this, but if you go to the right, you show up on the left, and vice versa. Like it kind of does it play
Oh,
like
like a Pac-Man like wraparound
yeah.
sort of
I
thing.
can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
I think it does that. Obviously, I don't think that would play into it, but it
yeah.
definitely has like lanes that you can kind of stick in. Maybe it's a little less of a because like the way Temple Run works is it's well actually it's a little less Temple Run and more. I was thinking like Subway Surfers. Temple Run, if I remember correctly, was a little bit more single lane. It was more just jump or slide.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Subway Surfers is like there's like three lanes basically you can be in. You can be left, middle, or right, and so you want to be in those. And then there's also jump and slide. I think I didn't play Subway Surfers. I played Temple Run,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the same auto runner. There's a lot of copycats and different versions. I think even Sonic has a version of that style
Mm-hmm.
game. So, which shows that you can take existing franchises and kind of repurpose them that way. But I would imagine it's similar to Subway Surfers in the sense that it's like you have, but I actually don't think it'd be lanes. I think it'd be free range. Like you can kind of, it's like more analog where you can
Okay.
kind of adjust your character because I want it to be a console game. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it would still be an auto running kind of game. Like imagine just Mario Kart, but with the gas pedal always on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar thing, but obviously each level gets progressively harder, and you have to react faster, and you can equip gear to kind of help you through that. But and level up maybe even, but it depends. I think
Mm-hmm.
gear would be better. Like don't no level up, just purely gear related because I mean I don't know. It just feels like if you're hiking a mountain, like you wouldn't get stronger per se as you go in the mountain. You would just need better gear to get further up the mountain. Like
Mm-hmm.
people who hike Everest don't suddenly become stronger halfway up. So
Yeah,
but I mean, it is
absolutely.
Nintendo though, so who knows? But um,
Yeah,
so yeah. Anyway, that was my pitch. Just kind of a fun change of angle. Yeah.
absolutely.
So now I
I
really really want to know yours though.
Okay, so mine sort of has changed. I think I briefly mentioned this to you, but I've sort of changed my angle on it. So I'd still want a 2D game, but it wouldn't be arcadey at all. Here's what I'm pitching: reimagine Ice Climbers as a combination. I don't know if you've ever played this first one, but a combination of It Takes Two and Animal Well, where you
Oh,
essentially make the entire mountain a dungeon that you have to get new gear to progress up and up the mountain, but it's a co-op experience that you have to do with someone else, and there's a narrative between Nana and Popo that is being worked out at the same time.
I think someone already made this.
Wait, are you serious? Someone
I
already made
I
this?
think so. I'm trying to look it up right now, but I remember there was like a what was it? Co-op game. I'm like trying to remember what it was. Bread and Fred. Yep, Bread
Really?
and
It's like an
Fred.
actual thing? Okay, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay, I mean,
it's
is it
yeah,
like on Steam or
it's it.
something?
So it's yeah, it's kind of like you're tied. You have two characters, and there's a rope between them, and it's a side-scrolling pixel game, and you're two penguins
Uh-huh.
trying to climb up a mountain, and you have to work together to get further up and become.
Oh, okay, but is it a Metroidvania, and is there a narrative between the
I
two?
don't know about the narrative. I know it's somewhat Metroidvania kind of thing. I need to send you it, but it's not quite exactly what you're saying. But I think it fits a lot of the same. We're gonna have to play this. We're gonna have to get
Yeah,
this
I
game.
feel like we have to play this now.
There's a demo for it too, apparently. So
Yeah. Well,
uh,
okay. Also, technically, we've played Chained Together a little bit,
that's
and I
true.
guess I guess that's the hell version of Ice Climbers.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this looks like. It's almost like a chain together, but like cuter and more artsy. But
Hmm.
it looks like it's heavily inspired by Ice Climbers. So yeah, unfortunately, I think someone already beat you to it.
Okay, but mine's a little different,
It is a
right?
little different.
Because with my suggestion, at least, I don't know anything about Red and Fred. I literally just heard about it, but like my idea is that there's a narrative being worked out between the two where they have to learn to work together and insert whatever conflict you want. I my understanding is Nana and Popo actually aren't brother and sister. I thought for the longest time they were. Apparently they're not. I don't know, but if you were to have each player have different functions, sort of like in It Takes Two, they have different equipment, and as you progress like through this mountain, you collect new equipment that allows you to scale higher up the mountain. Maybe there's like a mystery that's being solved at the same time or something. You could do something actually really cool with Ice Climbers that is a total reimagining of it and also doesn't neatly fit into any other genre that Nintendo has really done. The closest thing is Metroid, but there's no co-op 2D Metroid. You know what I mean? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not a thing. And so I feel like you could make something that's really cool. And I don't know if I'd put Hazelight in charge of it. As great as they are, I don't know if they would be like necessarily a great fit for it. But I sort of would want to go for that style of narrative,
Mm-hmm.
while at the same time going for the Animal Well experience atmospherically, and the way that you use the equipment in Animal Well, which is fundamentally different from how equipment is used in Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
The puzzle solving aspect of Animal Well is what I want to bring in.
See,
And so that's my
yeah,
vision for the game.
I do like that. That's definitely different than Fred and Fred.
Hmm.
And I would also just love it if it had like just the animal well, not well aesthetic, like the graphic style, but
The light bright
obviously
graphics.
yeah, but with but in a more like themed ice climber kind
Hmm.
of world, so more icy
Absolutely.
snow, but like that'd be phenomenal. Yeah, especially with the equipment and puzzle solving, but having two players that have to play together. Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal idea. I think that should be done.
Well,
So,
thank
because
you.
I'm a huge fan of Animal Well, so
Oh gosh, I love Animal Well. It's so good.
it's so good. Thank you, Donkey. No, sorry, to
Yeah.
say thank you, Donkey, because he just promoted it. Thank you. Wait,
Well, thank you, Donkey, for whatever promotion you gave it. Whatever success you contributed to Animal Well, thank you, because they deserve all that success and more.
yes. Nope. I'm
And it
trying.
was it was
Billy
made by like
Basso.
one guy, right?
Billy
Yeah.
Basso. Sorry, I just need to make sure I gave him. I
Oh,
acknowledged him because
absolutely.
he is the real hero. I mean, he took 7 years to make that game by himself.
Yeah,
So
the man's a genius. Like truly, like that is a work of genius. Like
it
truly, it
it
is.
boggles my mind. He built the game engine himself, and the whole game is only 35 megabytes.
That's so wild.
It's
It's one of the best experiences like gaming that I've had in a very long time. That's easily a 10 out of 10 for me.
yeah. It's if you
Easily.
haven't played Animal Well, please go buy Animal Well. It's like a mixture of Halo 2 and Halo 3. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
no, it's a seriously underrated. Well, I say underrated because I think more people need to play it and experience it. It's a very unique. It's not just a platform Metrovania. It's like it's
Hmm.
also just the atmosphere, the way it's hard to
It,
describe.
and do yourself a favor. Don't watch any trailers for it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't watch any trailers. Go in blind.
Yeah.
Truly, I did that, and it was a phenomenal experience. And you'll accidentally figure things out along the way, and that is the coolest feeling. And that mixed with the oppressive and mysterious atmosphere of the world, is like truly something that you don't really get in any other game, at least not any modern
No.
game. Maybe there's like another game in the past that would sort of fit that bill, but I haven't seen anything like this in a very long time,
Yeah. The
if
game
ever.
the game not telling you what to do is not a bug. It's a feature.
Yep.
It's actually what's so nice to have a game that finally doesn't hold your hand and you get stuck with these awful tutorials that you have to just draw. Yeah, so one complaint I have about Pikmin 4 is the
Hmm.
fact that in the beginning it's just so stinking long. I wish you could skip it all and just get straight into the game. And
Hmm.
thankfully they do eventually. If you've beat it once, you can just go back and just skip a lot of the dialogue, but you still have to drudge through the whole beginning. This game, Animal Wells, is like, here you go, figure it out, have fun,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's so fun. It's so rewarding. It's one of the most rewarding games. So, anywho, well, that makes up for our time. This has
Hmm.
been fun. I think
Yeah.
there's so much more we could do. I've got more on my list. We may do another one of these down the road.
I was just about to say I've got a few more that I'd like some more time to think about. But
Yeah.
I think a part two is in order.
Yeah, I would love to hear from anyone who's listening in the comments. Yeah, the only way we don't have any other way for you to reach out to us at the moment is if you're listening to us on Spotify or another podcast, please go into YouTube and just find our video and just comment. Um,
Hmm.
uh,
Absolutely.
so we just would love to hear some other ideas that you may have as far as different remakes, somewhat blends of different games that you think would make a Nintendo game elevate it. So yeah, there's so much. I mean, that's what's so fun about this whole idea too, is that sometimes you feel like, oh man, what's Nintendo gonna do next? What are the game? It's all there's no fresh ideas. There's nothing new. It's like no, there's still so many cool things that can get done. And Nintendo has just so much money to do it with.
Absolutely. So much capital, and unfortunately, like, they like to take risks in a lot of the right ways, not in all the ways that I would really like them to, but enough that it's always entertaining to see what they come up with, and I'm almost always satisfied with what I get.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they always seem to find some way to catch us off guard, the surprise and delight. So,
Absolutely.
well, this has been fun. Thank you, Ryan, again. And
Thank you.
thank you to everyone listening. We appreciate you. And just let us know if you're listening. Comment, like, subscribe, all the above. Until next time, I'm Leighton. He's Ryan. We will talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.